What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Talking Sports with Manny, and this is your host, Manny. Let's get it. Ever wanted to make a podcast but never really knew how? Well, Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. There's a creation tool that allows you to record right from your phone or computer, and as well as editing as well. Anchor will distribute your podcast to places such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can also monetize from your podcast. You can download the Anchor app for free at the App Store, or you can go to anchor.fm to get started.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you perfectly.
Awesome. What's up, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. So, guys, I have a special guest for you guys today. His name is Jared Johnson. He's a writer for the Dynasty Happy Hour. He specializes in analytics, analysis, rankings, Dynasty fantasy, incoming rookie projections, and you can find him on Twitter at Capital Jared, or follow his threads, #WinningFantasy. Welcome to the show, Jared.
Thank you so much, man. It's awesome to be here. I'm ready to dive deep into these rookies for Dynasty, and it is an absolute pleasure to be on your podcast.
Thank you so much. So, man, I'm excited for what you have for us today, man. Let's just dive into this list, man. I'm excited, man.
All right, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is Dynasty and the rookie drafts, right? So
yes.
In the rookie drafts, what are the most valuable players? They're typically going to be running backs, right?
Absolutely.
This year, we had some money running backs drafted in great positions. And the first one on our list, in my opinion, in PPR leagues is going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's a running back out of LSU, and he was drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs in the first round, number 32 overall. I am all about this guy going number one in your one quarterback leagues for PPR because let's look at what he did in college. He was an absolute target monster. Joe Burrow checked down to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the CEH, all the time. This guy is an absolute stud. If you can get him, go for him number one and don't look back. That is the number one guy that you're ready to go get. So,
absolutely.
I would say that landing with the Kansas City Chiefs was the best thing that could have happened for him because he's that receiving back. He's like a better receiving Jamal Charles. If you look at him, he may even remind you some of MJD. So Maurice Jones-Drew was just an outstanding back for Jacksonville. And it may be a long time ago for a lot of listeners, but this guy was a fantasy relevant running back one, top 5 every year after his rookie year for 3 straight. So I would say CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, is the number 1 overall pick for Dynasty rookie drafts this year.
Awesome. Let me ask you something. How quickly do you think that CEH will become the starting running back for the Kansas City Chiefs?
This year, I think Damian Williams is going to get about 40% of the touches if healthy, which he hasn't been his entire career in Kansas City. But if healthy, Damian Williams is a talented back. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire has the draft capital to be utilized even more than a Damian Williams because, let's face it, Damian Williams wasn't a first-round pick. You know what I mean? These guys in the coaching staff are going to want to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire involved in the offense more quickly because they invested so much more than they did in Damian Williams. Damian Williams only has 1 year left, $2 million. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, this guy, first rounder, he's got 4 years and a 5th-year option. So they wanted to make sure that they locked him in, and Andy Reid even said that he reminds him of a better Brian Westbrook.
Facts.
Brian Westbrook was money. He was one of
Right.
the best running backs in fantasy when he was playing for the Philadelphia Eagles while Andy Reid was the head coach there. This is an absolute home run as a pick. You take him in PPR leagues, number 1 overall. There's no question about it. If you're a 1 quarterback league, not a super flex, mind you, but a 1 quarterback league, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the easy number 1 pick. He's got the lowest floor, the highest floor, if you will, not the low,
Right.
the highest floor. I like him a lot.
I'm right with you. All right, so number 2 on our list, we have Jonathan Taylor, drafted in the second round by the Indianapolis Colts. Tell me about Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor, coming out of Wisconsin, has had 3 years of absolute premier elite production and is one of the best running back prospects that we've seen in a decade. His analytics, at least, meaning like runs that he does, the windows that he sees, and the number of missed tackles that he causes, lead us to believe that he would have a Saquon Barkley-like ability to run through holes. So, if he is like Saquon Barkley just rushing the football, he's a top 6 running back, right?
Facts.
Oh my God. If the guy can catch the ball, which that is yet to be proven, at least many pundits in the fantasy world, Jonathan Taylor is going to be running back 1. So, while I said Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the guy you go after in PPR leagues, it's because he plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs have obviously the best offense, probably the best quarterback, I mean, at least of the last 3 years and what he can do and the angles that he can get to. But Jonathan Taylor has an opportunity to be the best rusher, and he can just turn the switch on catching the football and becoming a receiving running back. This guy is the one who will hit it the biggest by far. Number 2 overall, upside, you go Jonathan Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts. Drafted in round 2, number 41 overall, high draft capital, and a 4.39 40 at the scouting combine. This man at over 220 pounds is ready to just be a wrecking ball. He's going to just fly through the line, and he is going to crush people. It's time for you to draft Jonathan Taylor, number 2.
Awesome. And let me ask you a question. Do you think that Marlon Mack is going to regress or get traded?
That's a question that I don't know the answer to. Like, realistically, I think, does he cut into some of the share for Jonathan Taylor in his rookie year? Absolutely. That's a great question. But do I know the future? Is he going to get traded? Honestly, I highly doubt it. But I do think that Jonathan Taylor kills Marlon Mack.
Absolutely.
I think that Marlon Mack is still a really good rusher, but he's not Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor has proven in 3 years in the Big Ten against elite defenses that he can score touchdowns, that he can find windows, that he's got the wiggle room to become one of a few elite running backs in the NFL.
Right.
Marlon Mack never did that. And Marlon Mack is good behind an elite offensive line in the NFL. But Jonathan Taylor is elite, and now he's behind an elite offensive line. Quentin Nelson just pulling for him at guard is going to make some massive holes. So Jonathan Taylor, that's my boy. 1 quarterback leagues, number 2 overall.
Awesome. So who do we have number 3 on our list?
So for me,
I'm intrigued.
For me, it's another running back, and it's a guy that you're going to have to wait on for a year to have elite production. But his name is J.K. Dobbins. And J.K. Dobbins comes out of Ohio State, the Ohio State University. But he was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens, 2nd round, number 55 overall. And he's sitting right behind Mark Ingram. Now, Mark Ingram was really a running back one for most of the year last year.
Mm-hmm.
The Baltimore Ravens are one of the biggest rushing offenses and set the record for the NFL for the most rushing yards and most rushing attempts by a team in the NFL ever last year in 2019. 2020, I say, brings an opportunity for a J.K. Dobbins type player who's got youth on his side, speed, the ability to catch from the backfield, and the ability to hit the hole hard. His rookie year isn't going to be as impressive as the rest of his career, but if you're willing to wait a year and you're in dynasty leagues, I would say you go for J.K. Dobbins. You invest heavily because this guy could pay dividends for you, win you championships, and be one of the most important players on your team for years to come. J.K. Dobbins is my man out of Baltimore. And I mean, I lived there for 7 years. I'll tell you what, they are nuts for their running backs in Baltimore. J.K. Dobbins, they're going to buy jerseys. He is going to be lauded. Like, people are going to just throw parties for this man in Baltimore.
Big trust. Whoop, whoop. All right, number 4 on our list, we have DeAndre Swift. And this guy, you know, I didn't watch a lot of him in college, even though I do watch the SEC. But anytime I did watch a Georgia game, this guy was balling out. And I know that he's a very good receiver out of the backfield. So tell me a little bit about DeAndre Swift.
DeAndre Swift's number 4. The reason DeAndre Swift is right there, he would be number 1 in most drafts if he hadn't fallen to the Lions. Now, some people have Cam Akers going ahead of him, and that's one of the guys we're going to talk about soon. But DeAndre Swift, to me, is the most complete back that was drafted.
I agree.
In 2020. DeAndre Swift, if you watch tape in college, he breaks ankles. It's like he's crossing people over, like, I don't know. It depends on the age of our listeners, but right now, like, if you remember Tim Hardaway, the U-step, two-step is what DeAndre Swift reminds me of. He just lunges people down into the dirt and makes sure that their chins hit that ground. DeAndre Swift,
I love it,
is so money because of the way that he can change direction, that if he was a receiver, we'd be talking about him as like Jerry Jeudy or like Julio Jones, because he can cut like no other. Now, having said that, his speed isn't as great as Jonathan Taylor. His size isn't as great as Jonathan Taylor. His receiving isn't as great as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he landed on the Detroit Lions, which over the last 20 years has been a place for running backs to go and die. So, Kerryon Johnson is also behind him. And Kerryon Johnson is also a very talented running back. I would say this is going to be a timeshare, but both players are going to be fantasy relevant in 2020. Don't sleep on either one of them. But the long-term play here is DeAndre Swift. Kerryon Johnson, in my opinion, he's gone after 2 years. Next year, he still may be fantasy relevant, but DeAndre Swift is still a more complete player, and he's got more of that, like, sexy appeal, than Kerryon Johnson ever had coming out from
Auburn.
Right, from Auburn. So DeAndre Swift is a guy you still want to draft really high because of the upside. Now, is he in a better situation than some of the other players we're going to talk about? Probably not. But realistically, you've got to draft talent, because in your rookie drafts, the best way to win your championship is to take the guy who's going to give you the best opportunity to win long term because of his talent. And this guy is one you got to go for. Unfortunately, got drafted by the Lions, and you know what? We still said J.K. Dobbins goes ahead of him. J.K. Dobbins got drafted 20 picks later. DeAndre Swift, number 35 overall. He would normally be number 1 if he was taken by, say, the Kansas City Chiefs. He'd be a no-brainer there. But this guy, you got to take him. You got to take him if you're there. If you're sitting there in one quarterback leagues, this is your guy, DeAndre.
Hey, let me ask you this. In PPR, you got one pick to make. Are you taking Dobbins or Swift?
So it depends on my team makeup.
Okay.
That's a big deal for me. So if I'm a win now, I take Swift.
Mm-hmm.
So if for some reason I have the 3rd overall pick because I traded or whatever, I'm probably taking DeAndre Swift, because for me, I think the Lions will use him more, and I'm going to get more points out of him than I'm going to get out of Dobbins this year. Now, barring injury, that's the right pick.
Gotcha.
So it's a flip-flop, right? Because if Mark Ingram, who's 31, goes down with injury, who's the next guy up?
JK.
Right. So, and in the highest potency rushing offense in the history of the NFL, J.K. Dobbins would get a massive boost because he's got youth, he's got talent, and he's running behind a great offensive line. So it's a flip-flop. It doesn't matter. It just is like both guys are great at that pick, but I'm not taking them ahead of Jonathan Taylor. I'm not taking them ahead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, just to be completely honest.
That's fair. And I'm in the same boat. I'm in a similar boat because I'm in a 6-keeper league. So it's pretty much like a dynasty. So, and I have pick number 4. So if a receiver like Robert Woods or Darren Waller is not there at 4, I'm most likely looking at either Dobbins or Swift. So I know I'm getting one of these top 4 running backs if a wide receiver that I like is not there. So it's going to be interesting. And my team makeup is I want to go running back heavy. I have CMC. I have Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon. Okay, and in this league, you can start 4 running backs. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting.
If it's a half PPR,
full PPR.
Oh, it's full PPR. Yeah, I mean, it just depends. Like that's the other thing too is consider your league scoring settings. So consider your league scoring settings. Like if it's half PPR, full PPR, these guys have so much more value too.
Absolutely.
So I know it sounds crazy, like if like a receiving back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire still has more value in a half PPR because it cuts down CMC. Christian McCaffrey is actually less valuable, so it actually makes Clyde Edwards-Helaire more valuable. Then he has a closer range to another wide receiver or the top players. So remember these things when you're looking at your scoring settings as to how they're going to progress. Right now, like in a startup, I mean, you're talking about like, let's say Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'd probably take him in the 2nd round of a startup dynasty draft. Same with Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, 3rd round, same with DeAndre Swift, or 4th round. And then later on, we'll get into other players. But that's where you're looking to like be able to have these players. You have to draft them pretty high. I mean, both guys are 21, you know? And then J.K. Dobbins and DeAndre Swift, also 21, you know?
Right.
So these are young players. It's not like they're older players that took their senior year to develop. They're very valuable, also because of their youth. You know, you're for years to come. Now, in redraft leagues, who's the most valuable? Only those 2 guys, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jonathan Taylor. Other than that, the next guy we're about to talk about, I would say I would take him in redrafts above some of these other guys. So, number 5, Cam Akers.
Okay.
Cam Akers, drafted by the Los Angeles Rams, round 2, number 52 overall, right before J.K. Dobbins. Now, why is he number 5 if J.K. Dobbins and DeAndre Swift were drafted earlier? The reason is Cam Akers has landed in a situation where he could be the number 1, but there's also some other guys that they have some draft capital, like Darrell Henderson.
Right.
Malcolm Brown, who's a little older, he's 27, but these guys have shown a little bit of flash of brilliance.
Right.
But Cam Akers has that talent, and he has that dog in him. Cam Akers ran behind one of the worst offensive lines in the country for the last 3 years as a 5-star recruit going into Florida State. And he showed that didn't matter. So Cam Akers, my man, is one of the best players that you can draft right here. I would normally be taking a guy that I love and have loved as probably the top player in the entire draft ahead of him. But realistically, just the landing spot, the brilliance of Sean McVay as a head coach for the Los Angeles Rams, previously of the Washington Redskins as the offensive coordinator, who, as a fan of the Washington Redskins, can tell you, we miss Sean McVay terribly.
Yes.
That man is going to make Cam Akers into a star. Cam Akers, you got to go out and get him. His upside is incredible. The offensive line in Los Angeles is atrocious, and it is not getting better. They haven't done anything to legitimately improve it. But Cam Akers is a guy that if you don't at least put your money where your mouth is, he's never going to pay out for you. Because other guys are going to take longer to develop. But Cam Akers, he could pay dividends right away. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers are going to pay more dividends than the other guys that I even have ranked ahead of them. If you're in redraft, you go Cam Akers before you go J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift. You're in Dynasty, flip-flop. Remember that. Cam Akers, though, is a big money running back. He is talented as hell.
Awesome. Hey, I'm taking notes. Number 6 on our list, we have my favorite player in this entire draft, Jerry Jeudy from Alabama. Tell me about him.
Man, Jerry Jeudy, and I was just alluding to this previously in our conversation. Jerry Jeudy is the best player coming out of college, in my opinion, in the last 5 years. Jerry Jeudy, if you watch his tape, his work ethic, and what he was able to produce in college, Jerry Jeudy is going to be the best pro. Now, if that means he's going to be the best fantasy pro, I'm not sure. But what I will tell you is that Jerry Jeudy is going to be on the field more than anybody else in this draft class. I would be surprised if he doesn't have a higher snap percentage than anyone that we're taking earlier than him.
Nice.
His route running ability, the way that he cuts, his agility, and his intention with how he catches the ball and where he's going will make him an elite wide receiver in the NFL for years to come. In his first year, I'd expect wide receiver 3 as his floor. Wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 2, because we can look at him and say, this guy's so consistent through his production in college. If he doesn't finish as a wide receiver 2, like wide receiver 22 through 24 as a ceiling, or wide receiver 35, 36, then he may not hit because he's ready to go right now. So if Jerry Jeudy doesn't get in that range, he might be a sell candidate. But he's also a guy that could surprise all of us and take targets away from Courtland Sutton.
Preach.
Because Courtland Sutton is one of these guys that is a contested catch guy. And I want to be honest, I own Courtland Sutton in multiple leagues, especially in standard and half PPR. But when it comes to PPR leagues, I would rather own Jerry Jeudy. I feel you. Jerry Jeudy is going to become the guy to go to. Drew Lock is going to find him open more than Courtland Sutton.
That's true.
Jerry Jeudy is the best player in this draft. Unfortunately, because so many running backs are so more valuable, he falls to our number 6. And I don't know if that's unfortunate for some of us or for others, but Jerry Jeudy in a one quarterback league sitting at your number 6, who would normally be 101 overall in other drafts.
Right.
Yikes.
Yeah. At number 7, we have CeeDee Lamb. As a Redskins fan, I was pissed off when the Las Vegas Raiders messed this up by going Ruggs. I'm not knocking Ruggs, but obviously we have CeeDee Lamb ranked over Ruggs.
So
CeeDee Lamb
kind of knocking Ruggs a little bit, but I'm okay with that. So CeeDee Lamb actually was one of my biggest fallers in the draft. So CeeDee Lamb's value as a wide receiver could be ahead of any player in the draft because he reminds me a lot of an Odell Beckham Jr.
Yes.
Or, man, just any guy that has the hands. Like, his hands are insane. He has the dog in him. He will fight for the ball. And he's a yak master. Yak master, yards after catch. So
And he can jump.
His athleticism skills are out of this world. He's not as fast as Henry Ruggs. He's bigger than Jerry Jeudy, but he's not as great of a route runner. However, I'll say this. CeeDee Lamb has the intangibles that could lead him to be the best wide receiver taken in this draft. Having said that, he was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys that already have Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. And a lot of people are like, that's not bad. He's got a great offense. And Mike McCarthy, as his head coach now, still had really valuable wide receiver threes on his team. Okay, great. Well, for me, Michael Gallup, I thought, was actually a deep sleeper and more talented than Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is an amazing wide receiver, but he's not sexy. He does some things really well, but he's not as just crisp. He's not as strong, and he's not as terrifying as Michael Gallup. Okay. Having said that, you've got Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper that are taking targets away from CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb could easily overtake Amari Cooper within 2 years. So if you're willing to wait for that type of production, CeeDee Lamb is the guy for you. You could even take him ahead of Jerry Jeudy because the Dallas Cowboys are going to be more of a passing offense than Denver, in my opinion, at least for the foreseeable future. They have a better quarterback in Dak Prescott than Drew Lock in Denver. Drew Lock could develop into a better quarterback, but we don't know that yet. So CeeDee Lamb falling into that position is not as good as Jerry Jeudy. So for me, as a bet, I'm going to go Jeudy over Lamb. But CeeDee Lamb could easily project to be the number one wide receiver in this draft. So I say go out and get him ahead of other players because his talent is that legitimate. If you watch his tape and you go deep and you dive in, this guy's sick. I mean, he is sick. He's the kind of guy I wish I would have on my team. You know what I mean? Like, kind of guy. But anyway, CeeDee Lamb, number 7. He was drafted in the first round, too, number 17 overall by the Dallas Cowboys.
So tell me about number 8. This is your guy.
Yeah. So Henry Ruggs, man, a lot of people are sleeping on him. Henry Ruggs isn't just a speed guy. I'll even tell you, I used to hate Henry Ruggs. So I watched tape of him and like Jalen Reagor and like T. Higgins, and I was just like, man, Henry Ruggs looks kind of small and like he just looks like he's a guy that like pivots around guys that are better than him. Because Jerry Jeudy was on the same team in Alabama, and you also had Jalen Waddle, and you've also had Devontae Smith, who are both going to probably be first-round picks in 2021. And you've got 4 wide receivers that are maybe even better than Henry Ruggs. So it's everybody's like basically shitting or poo-pooing, pardon my French, on Henry Ruggs. But if you watch his tape, Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback who drafted number 5 overall by the Miami Dolphins, that's his guy. Like, Henry Ruggs was actually his guy. Jalen Waddle could do a lot, and they both had speed. But Henry Ruggs was the guy that he looked to when he couldn't find Jerry Jeudy. He looked for Henry Ruggs. So if you take a deeper dive into the value of those players, Tua is maybe one of the best quarterback prospects to come out if it wasn't for his hip injury. He's a lights out quarterback as far as accuracy is concerned at any level, even if it's deep, intermediate, or short passing. But Henry Ruggs going into Las Vegas has Derek Carr, who's going to want to get him the ball in the intermediate field more than anything. And then, his sub 4.3 speed is going to get him into the end zone. You know? The guy isn't small. He's not like 170 pounds. He's 190 pounds. He's over 6 feet tall. Henry Ruggs is a good receiver. This isn't just a speed guy. Watch his tape. He can go up and get the ball too. It's just, if you've got Jerry Jeudy on the same team who's breaking people's ankles with the routes that he runs, it's going to be difficult for you to find Henry Ruggs in the same area of the field. And if you're going from left-handed quarterbacks, I'm going for my X receiver first.
Right. Now, I would say this. You have definitely opened up my eyes to Henry Ruggs during this podcast. I mean, I just thought he was just a speed guy, and that's the thing that annoys me with speed guys is that sometimes the teams will not develop a speed guy like Tyreek Hill. He can do a lot of different things, but when he really started running routes, I mean, he just became a monster. You know what I'm saying? So if Henry Ruggs can just be half of what Tyreek Hill is,
he's half Tyreek Hill. He's a wide receiver too. I mean, there you go. Right?
Wow. I have no words. That's amazing. But the $1 million question is, did Las Vegas Raiders, did they make the right choice at 12?
They did.
Okay.
So if they were in Oakland, or if they were in Las Vegas, doesn't matter. They take speed because guess what? You can't teach speed. You can't teach those types of things. You can teach a guy how to run routes. You can teach a guy how to go up in the air and catch above somebody else. You can teach a guy how to sit down when he's doing a hook route, but you can't teach a guy how to run a sub 4.3 40.
Awesome.
John Ross.
I see where you're coming from.
So John Ross is a guy who is drafted in the top 10. Never so far has he hit on that draft capital.
John Ross teased us, this season with those first
but I'll be
games.
honest, if you look at the way Henry Ruggs plays, it is like John Ross, but he never had any injuries. John Ross had injuries. John Ross had injuries in college. Henry Ruggs never had those. Now, having said that, he did get that punctured quad from helping his friend move, but that doesn't deter me from drafting him. I'm still taking CeeDee Lamb ahead of him, and that's just barely. I'm going to be honest with you. That's just barely. Okay? Henry Ruggs is a legit receiver. Henry Ruggs is easily one of the top 10 picks in this draft. And depending on who you are, I would say take him as early as you can. Don't sleep on him.
All right. I will end on this. I'll make it as promised. I have 1 first-round pick and I have 2 second-rounders. If Henry Ruggs is there in the second round with my early second-round pick.
Oh, my man. Is it a 1 quarterback league?
It's not a 1 quarterback league.
I'll tell you.
Okay. Now, mind you, this is a 6 keeper.
Oh, okay.
league.
So you can take free agents too.
So, yeah. So some guys might value like a Brandon Cook or whatever receivers that are going to be out there, because a lot of guys are not keeping receivers. Everybody's keeping all their running backs. a few of us are keeping the tight ends. So there's going to be tons of receivers available in the first round. So which makes it slightly different from a normal.
If
dynasty.
he's there, you should take him. I'm just saying, I have him, especially in auction drafts. Auction drafts, people they don't bid as high on him as even T. Higgins.
Exactly.
Well, maybe we'll get to him today, but they bid higher on him, especially before the NFL draft. I saw that. I was like, man, that's crazy to me. And I told you, I was not a big Henry Ruggs fan until I legitimately dove deep into his tape. And then I watched and I was like, that's the dude. That is a dangerous dude. He's one of those guys I just did not expect to be like that. So, maybe I'm going to be I'm going to be wrong, because guess what? Sometimes you are. But Henry Ruggs, man, he looks the part at least.
Well, like I said, man, you've opened up my eyes to Henry Ruggs. But we definitely got to bring you back on for a part 2 of this. Because we can go at this all night, but I want to be respectful of your time. But definitely, we're coming back with a part 2 when your schedule allows, so we can dive into this Dynasty rookie list that can really help a lot of people. Because I am starting a Dynasty startup league this summer, so I'm definitely taking notes, and I see some guys on this list that are I'm like, wow. So we definitely gotta do this again. But thank you so much for coming on the show. I definitely appreciate your knowledge and your time.
I'm happy to do it. There's so many great rookies this year. This is one of the deepest drafts. There's so much more that we have to dive deep into, but I appreciate you letting me on your podcast, and I really can't wait to be back on. I hope you have a good one.
Thank you. All right, brother. I'll talk.
Have a good one. Remember, follow me at Capital Jared on Twitter. And if you really want to talk to me and you want to get at me, #WinningFantasy. Y'all have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So guys, thank you so much for tuning in into another episode. I appreciate the love that you guys are giving me out there on all the social media platforms. Be sure to share this podcast with one other person. Please leave me a review on the Apple Podcasts or whatever platform that you do use. Subscribe, share, follow me on Twitter at TS with Manny, Instagram, TS with Manny, on Facebook, Talking Sports with Manny. Thank you guys so much. And if you guys have any comments, be sure to hashtag TSWM, Talking Sports with Manny 2020. Thank you guys so much. Love y'all. Y'all be safe out there. There's a lot going on. Just please be safe out there. Love you guys.